When humans answer the call, emergency signal detected. The bridge of the UES Defiant hummed with quiet efficiency as Captain Sarah Chen reviewed the morning reports. 3 weeks into their deep space exploration mission, the crew had settled into a comfortable routine of scanning star systems and cataloging potential colony worlds. The silence of the void was broken by a sharp beep from the communications console. "Captain," called Lieutenant Marcus Kane from his station. "I'm picking up a distress signal. It's weak but definitely artificial." Chen straightened in her command chair. "Origin? Unknown, ma'am. The signal pattern doesn't match any human or known alien technology in our databases. It's coming from the Kepler 442 system, roughly 6 light hours away." Dr. Elena Vasquez looked up from her scientific station. "That system was marked as uninhabited in our survey data. No signs of technological civilization." "Well, someone's out there now," Kane replied, his fingers dancing across his console. "The signal is repeating every 30 seconds. Classical distress pattern, but the encoding is completely foreign." Chen stood and moved to the main view screen, where the star map showed their current position relative to the signal source. Every instinct told her to investigate. The Defiant was an exploration vessel, designed for exactly these kinds of encounters. But first contact protocols existed for good reasons. "Analysis, Doctor?" she asked. Vasquez frowned at her readings. "The signal is definitely artificial, but it's degrading rapidly. Whatever's broadcasting it won't be transmitting much longer. If we're going to investigate, we need to move quickly." "Helmsman, set course for the Kepler 442 system. Maximum sustainable speed." Chen returned to her chair. "All departments, prepare for possible first contact scenario. I want everything by the book." The Defiant turned gracefully in space, its engines pushing the vessel toward the unknown signal. The crew worked with practiced efficiency, running diagnostics on translation software, preparing medical bays for potential alien physiology, and charging defensive systems just in case. Discovery in the void 4 hours later, the Defiant dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the Kepler 442 system. What they found defied their expectations completely. "My God," whispered Kane, staring at his sensor readings. The main screen showed the wreckage of what had once been a massive space station. Debris fields stretched for thousands of kilometers, twisted metal and unidentifiable materials drifting in the cold vacuum. But this wasn't the result of an accident or system failure. Massive scorch marks and hull breaches told a different story. "This was an attack," Chen said grimly. "Someone did this deliberately." Dr. Vasquez was already running her scans. "The technology is incredibly advanced, Captain. Some of these hull fragments are made from materials we've never seen before. The power signatures suggest energy weapons far beyond our current capabilities." "I'm still picking up that distress signal," Kane reported. "It's coming from a section of the station that's still partially intact. Scans show one life form aboard." Chen made her decision quickly. "Prepare a rescue shuttle, Doctor, you're with me. Kane, you have the bridge. If anything threatening shows up, get us out of here immediately." The shuttle bay opened to reveal the rescue craft, a small but well-equipped vessel designed for exactly this kind of mission. As they approached the wreckage, the scale of destruction became even more apparent. The station had been enormous, possibly home to thousands of beings. "The survivor is in what appears to be an emergency shelter," Vasquez reported from her portable scanner. "Life signs are weak but stable. The section still has atmosphere." They docked with the damaged section carefully, cutting through twisted metal to reach the shelter. Inside, they found their first alien. First contact. The being was tall and graceful, with pale blue skin and large, multifaceted eyes. Its breathing was labored and greenish fluid leaked from several wounds. Despite its injuries, it regarded the humans with obvious intelligence. "Can you understand us?" Chen asked, activating the universal translator. The alien's response came, through the device in accented but clear English. "Your technology is more advanced than your appearance suggests. I am Zexhai of the Corvani Collective. You must leave this place immediately." Dr. Vasquez was already examining the alien's injuries. "You need medical attention. We have a fully equipped medical bay on our ship. Zexai tried to sit up, wincing in pain. You do not understand. The Devourers will return to finish what they started. This entire sector will be consumed. Your small vessel cannot stand against them. Devourers? Chen asked. A plague upon the galaxy, Zexai explained, allowing Vasquez to help stabilize the wounds. They consume entire star systems, converting all matter into more of themselves. My research station was studying ways to stop them. We failed. Kane's voice crackled through the comm system. Captain, I'm detecting multiple ships approaching, large ones. Chen activated her communicator. On our way. Prepare for immediate departure. But Zexai grabbed her arm with surprising strength. Those are not the Devourers. Those are my people. The Corvani fleet has come to evacuate the sector. The Corvani fleet back aboard the Defiant. The crew watched in awe as the Corvani ships emerged from faster-than-light travel. The vessels were sleek and elegant, clearly the product of a technology far more advanced than anything humans had achieved. The largest ship was nearly 10 kilometers long, dwarfing the Defiant completely. Incoming transmission, Kane reported. The main screen filled with the image of another Corvani, this one wearing what appeared to be military insignia. His bearing was proud and authoritative. Unknown vessel. You will identify yourselves immediately. This sector is under quarantine by order of the Corvani Collective. Chen stepped forward. This is Captain Sarah Chen of the United Earthship Defiant. We responded to a distress signal and rescued one of your people from the destroyed station. The Corvani leader's expression didn't change. I am Admiral Thekron of the Corvani Defense Fleet. We acknowledge your assistance. However, this sector is no longer safe. The Devourers will return within days. You must evacuate immediately. What? About the research? Zexai interjected from the medical bay, his voice transmitted to the bridge. Admiral, the work here could be the key to stopping them. Thekron's image flickered with what might have been annoyance. The research is lost, Zexai. We cannot risk more lives on theoretical solutions. The evacuation is mandatory. Chen felt something stir within her, a familiar feeling she'd experienced many times during her military career. Admiral, with respect, what exactly are these Devourers? Mechanical plague, Thekron replied dismissively. Self-replicating constructs that consume all matter to fuel their expansion. They have already destroyed 17 inhabited systems. Even our most advanced weapons barely slow them down. Have you tried working with other species? Combining different technologies and approaches? The Admiral's expression showed clear disdain. Your species is barely capable of interstellar travel. The Devourers represent a threat beyond your comprehension. The evacuation order stands. Dr. Vasquez stepped forward. Captain, the Corvani technology is incredibly advanced, but their approach seems limited to conventional weapons and tactics. Maybe a fresh perspective could help. Chen nodded slowly. The situation was becoming clear. The Corvani, despite their advanced technology, were fighting a losing battle. They were retreating from an enemy they couldn't defeat, abandoning entire sectors of space. Lieutenant Kane, she said quietly, what's our current supply and fuel? Status? Kane checked his readings. Fully stocked, Captain. We could operate independently for several months if necessary. The human decision Admiral Thekron was growing impatient. Captain Chen, you will follow our evacuation fleet to safe space. This is not a request. Chen looked around at her crew. She saw determination in their faces, the same expression she'd seen countless times when humans faced impossible odds. Admiral, with all due respect, we decline your evacuation order. The silence that followed was profound. Even Zexai seemed shocked by the human response. You decline? Thekron's voice carried a mixture of disbelief and condescension. Captain, your vessel is primitive compared to our technology. If we cannot stop the Devourers, what makes you think you can accomplish anything? Maybe that's exactly why we might succeed, Chen replied calmly. You said yourself that conventional approaches have failed. Maybe it's time to try something unconventional. Kane stepped forward. Captain, I'm reading the tactical data from the destroyed station. The Devourers seem to adapt quickly to energy weapons and standard explosive devices, but their response patterns suggest they might be vulnerable to more creative approaches. Dr. Vasquez nodded enthusiastically. The wreckage shows they convert matter into more of themselves, but the process might have limitations. If we could find a way to disrupt that conversion. Thekron's image flickered with what was clearly frustration. This is foolishness. You will accomplish nothing but your own destruction. Chen straightened to her full height. Admiral, humans have a long history of accomplishing the impossible. When we're backed into a corner, we're not leaving. Then you will die uselessly, Thekron replied coldly. The Corvani fleet is departing. You are on your own. The transmission ended abruptly. Within minutes, the elegant Corvani ships began disappearing into faster-than-light travel, leaving the small human vessel alone in the vast emptiness of space. Preparing for the impossible in the medical bay, HFY was recovering quickly thanks to Dr. Vasquez's treatment. The alien scientists seemed fascinated by human medical technology, particularly their approach to emergency medicine. Your techniques are crude but effective, HFY observed. Corvani medicine relies heavily on automated systems and energy-based healing. Your hands-on approach is refreshing. Chen visited the medical bay to check on their guest. HFY, we need to know everything about the Devourers, weaknesses, behavioral patterns, anything that might help. The Corvani scientist's large eyes focused on the human captain. Why are you doing this? Your ship cannot possibly survive what is coming. Because someone has to try, Chen replied simply. Because running away and abandoning entire sectors isn't a solution. Because that's what humans do when faced with impossible odds. HFY was quiet for a long moment. The Devourers are not alive in any sense we understand. They are constructs, but they adapt and learn. Each encounter makes them stronger. They convert matter by breaking it down at the molecular level and reconstructing it into more of themselves. How do they communicate? How do they coordinate? Unknown. They seem to share information instantaneously across vast distances. Destroy one unit, and the others immediately know everything it learned. Kane's voice came through the comm system. Captain, we've got company. Long-range sensors are picking up multiple contacts approaching the system. ETA approximately 6 hours. Chen looked at HFY. Is that them? The alien's expression was grim. Yes. The Devourers have returned to finish consuming the system. Captain, it is not too late to flee. Chen smiled, and there was something in that expression that reminded HFY of a predator. We're not fleeing anywhere. Kane, all hands to battle stations. It's time to show these Devourers what humans can do. The approaching storm. The next 6 hours passed in a blur of activity. The crew of the Defiant worked with the focused intensity that only humans seemed capable of when facing certain death. They modified weapons, reconfigured systems, and prepared for a battle they had no business fighting. Dr. Vasquez had downloaded everything from HFY's research, combining Corvani theoretical knowledge with human practical engineering. Kane had studied every tactical engagement the Corvani had fought, looking for patterns and opportunities. The Corvani always fought them conventionally, he reported. Ship-to-ship combat, energy weapons, standard tactics. But humans fight differently. We adapt, we improvise, we use whatever we have. Chen nodded. What do we have that they might not expect? Everything, Captain. Our reactor design, our weapons, our tactics, even our thinking. To the Devourers, we're completely unknown. The Defiant hung in space near the wreckage of the research station, a tiny speck against the vast debris field. To any observer, it would have seemed suicidal. One small human ship against an enemy that had consumed star systems, but Captain Sarah Chen and her crew weren't any observers. They were humans, and humans had never learned when to quit. The sensors began registering the approaching enemy fleet. Hundreds of ships, each one larger than the Defiant, each one designed for the sole purpose of consumption and destruction. Here they come, Kane reported quietly. Chen settled into her command chair. All hands, this is the captain. We're about to face something that has terrorized this galaxy. We're outgunned, outnumbered, and probably outmatched, but we're human, and humans don't back down from a fight. Today, we show the galaxy what that means. The Devourer fleet dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the system, their dark ships like a plague of locusts against the stars. They had come to finish what they started, to consume the remaining matter in the system and move on to the next target. They had not counted on humans. What humans do when cornered. The Devourer fleet arrives. The enemy ships were unlike anything in human or Corvani databases, dark, angular vessels that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. Their surfaces crawled with mechanical tendrils and construction appendages, giving them the appearance of metallic predators. Each ship was roughly the size of a human battlecruiser, but there were hundreds of them. Sensor analysis, Chen ordered, her voice calm despite the overwhelming odds. Kane's hands flew over his controls. Energy signatures are off the charts, Captain. Their ships appear to be powered by some kind of matter conversion system. They're literally consuming space dust and converting it into energy. Dr. Vasquez added her readings. The hull composition is constantly changing. They're not just ships, they're mobile factories. They can repair damage by converting nearby matter into replacement parts. HFY, now recovered enough to observe from the bridge, watched the human crew with fascination. The Corvani fleet that first encountered them consisted of 50 ships, each more advanced than your vessel. They were destroyed in less than an hour. The Corvani fought them like a conventional enemy, Chen replied, studying the tactical display. Kane, what's their formation telling us? The tactical officer analyzed the enemy fleet's approach. They're spreading out to surround the system, Captain. Standard containment pattern. They want to ensure nothing escapes before they consume everything. Good. That means they're following predictable protocols. Chen turned to the engineering station. Rodriguez, how's our special project coming? Chief Engineer Carlos Rodriguez grinned from his station. The modifications are complete, Captain. It's completely insane, but it should work. Once. HFY looked confused. Modifications? What have you done to your ship? Chen smiled. Something no one expects from a primitive species. Rodriguez, explain it to our guest. The engineer's eyes lit up with enthusiasm. We've reconfigured our main reactor to overload in a controlled manner. Instead of a simple explosion, we can create a cascade failure that will turn our entire ship into a massive electromagnetic pulse generator. You're planning to destroy your own ship? HFY asked in disbelief. Not exactly, Kane interjected. We're planning to turn our ship into a weapon. The EMP will disrupt their matter conversion systems, at least temporarily. But that's just the opening move. Dr. Vasquez pulled up her analysis. While they're dealing with system failures, we'll deploy our real surprise. We've modified our emergency cargo pods to carry a very special payload. Which is? Chen's smile turned predatory. Human ingenuity, alien. We're going to give them something they've never encountered before. Completely unpredictable opponents who refuse to follow the rules. First blood. The Devourer fleet had finished their deployment and was beginning to move inward toward the planet and asteroid belt, their preferred sources of raw material. They moved with mechanical precision, each ship following predetermined patterns that had proven successful across 17 conquered systems. The small human ship hung motionless in the debris field, apparently hiding among the wreckage of the research station. To the Devourers, it registered as insignificant, barely worth noticing. That was exactly what Chen was counting on. They're ignoring us, Kane reported. Their sensors are focused on the high-density targets, planetary mass, asteroid belt, the remains of the station. Perfect. Rodriguez, initiate the cascade sequence. All hands prepare for immediate evacuation to the cargo pods. The Defiance reactor began to whine as power systems were pushed beyond their design limits. Throughout the ship, the crew moved with practiced efficiency to the modified cargo pods that would serve as their lifeboats and weapons platforms. HFY, Chen said, you need to get to evacuation pod 7. It's the only one not rigged for combat. The Corvani scientist hesitated. Captain, this plan is beyond reckless. Even if you disable some of their ships, there are hundreds of them. That's what makes it interesting, Chen replied. Kane, are you ready? The tactical officer was sealing his combat suit. All pods are loaded and ready, Captain. Cargo bay doors are rigged to explosive bolts. When that reactor goes, we'll have about 30 seconds before the EMP hits them. Then let's give them something to remember. Chen activated the ship-wide comm. All hands, this is the captain. Today we make history. Today we show the galaxy that humans don't surrender. Execute Operation Cornered Rat. The Defiance reactor reached critical mass and began its controlled cascade failure. The ship's hull began to glow with barely contained energy as the crew sealed themselves into their modified cargo pods, ejecting in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Execute. Explosive bolts fired throughout the ship, launching dozens of cargo pods into space just as the reactor achieved total cascade failure. The UES Defiant died in a brilliant flash of electromagnetic energy that washed over the entire system. Chaos in the dark. The EMP wave struck the Devourer fleet like a hammer blow. Ships that had operated with mechanical precision for centuries suddenly found their systems failing simultaneously. Navigation failed, weapon systems went offline, and most critically, their matter conversion systems stuttered to a halt. For the first time in their existence, the Devourers experienced confusion. The cargo pods, shielded by the debris field and hardened against their own EMP, began their attack run. Each pod contained a 4-person crew and a payload designed specifically to exploit the weaknesses the humans had identified. Pod 7 to all units, Kane's voice crackled over the comm. Primary targets are the matter conversion systems. Remember, we don't need to destroy them, just disrupt them long enough. The pods streaked toward the disabled Devourer ships using maneuvering thrusters to navigate through the debris field. Their small size and unpredictable flight paths made them nearly impossible to target, even as the enemy ships began to recover from the EMP Pod 3, commanded by Dr. Vasquez, reached its target first. The payload was her own design, a biological agent that would clog the molecular filters the Devourers used to process raw matter. Deploying biological disruptor, she reported, launching a cloud of specially engineered bacteria into the ship's intake ports. Target's conversion system is showing signs of contamination. Pod 5, loaded with a mixture of incompatible elements, crashed directly into a Devourer ship's hull. The impact released a cloud of materials that the ship's systems couldn't process, creating a feedback loop that spread to neighboring vessels. This is insane, Zexhai observed from his pod. Your people are using biological weapons, chemical contamination, and direct collision attacks. These are not standard combat tactics. Exactly, Chen replied from Pod 1, preparing her own payload. The Devourers adapted to standard tactics because they encountered the same approaches repeatedly. They've never faced opponents who refuse to fight fair. Her pod released its cargo, a collection of human artifacts that defied easy categorization. Art pieces, musical instruments, literature, and cultural items that contained no useful materials, but created massive confusion in the Devourer processing systems. The human factories, as the battle continued, the Devourer fleet found themselves facing something unprecedented. Opponents who actively rejected logical combat doctrine. The humans used tactics that made no sense, weapons that shouldn't work, and strategies that defied prediction. One pod crew, led by Chief Rodriguez, had modified their container to serve as a boarding craft. They cut through a Devourer ship's hull and began sabotaging systems from the inside, using nothing more than tools and explosive charges. The beauty of it, Rodriguez reported while planting charges, is that they can't adapt to chaos. Their whole system depends on analyzing and copying successful strategies. But there's no strategy to analyze when we're making it up as we go. Another pod crew discovered that the Devourer's sensors had trouble tracking objects that moved in completely random patterns. They began flying evasive maneuvers based on human music, using rhythm and melody to create unpredictable flight paths. Pod. 12 to all units, reported the pilot, laughing despite the desperate situation. I'm flying to Beethoven's Fifth Symphony, and they can't lock on to me. These things really hate classical music. The tide began to turn as more Devourer ships succumbed to the completely unexpected assault. Ships designed to analyze and counter known threats found themselves paralyzed by attacks that made no tactical sense. The Corvani Return Admiral Thekron stood on the bridge of his flagship, staring at the sensor readings in disbelief. The Corvani evacuation fleet had detected the massive energy signature from the human ship's destruction and had returned to investigate. Admiral, his tactical officer reported, the human vessel appears to have been destroyed, but the Devourer fleet is in complete disarray. Multiple ships are showing system failures, and their formation has completely broken down. Impossible, Thekron muttered. One small ship cannot have done this. Zexhai's voice came through the comm system from his evacuation pod. Admiral, you need to see this. The humans didn't destroy the Devourer fleet. They confused it into destroying itself. The main screen showed the ongoing battle, tiny human pods darting between massive Devourer ships, creating chaos wherever they went. Ships that had been unstoppable were now colliding with each other, their systems overloaded by inputs they couldn't process. They turned their own ship into a weapon, Zexhai continued, his voice filled with admiration. Then they scattered, their crew in individual pods each carrying a different payload designed to create system failures. Admiral, they're winning through pure unpredictability. Thekron watched as a group of human pods used their maneuvering thrusters to create a complex pattern around a cluster of Devourer ships. The pattern meant nothing tactically, but it overloaded the enemy's targeting systems by presenting too many variables to analyze simultaneously. Fascinating, the Admiral murmured. They're not fighting the Devourers. They're teaching them that victory is impossible. Victory through madness. The battle reached its climax when Captain Chen's pod reached the center of the Devourer formation. Her payload was the most ambitious, a collection of human literature, music, art, and philosophical works encoded in a format that would integrate directly with the Devourer's data systems. All pods, this is Chen. Final payload deploying in 30 seconds. I suggest you clear the area. The upload began, flooding the Devourer network with centuries of human creativity, irrationality, and contradictory thinking. Poetry, music, abstract art, comedy, tragedy, and philosophy poured into minds designed for pure logic and efficiency. The effect was immediate and devastating. Ships that had operated with mechanical precision for millennia suddenly found themselves paralyzed by concepts they couldn't process. How do you analyze a joke? How do you counter music? How do you adapt to art? The Devourer fleet, faced with inputs that defied logical processing, began to shut down. Ship after ship went dark as their systems overloaded trying to understand human creativity. Admiral, Zexhai reported with awe, they're not destroyed, they're thinking. The Devourers are trying to understand humanity, and it's causing complete system paralysis. Within an hour, the entire Devourer fleet hung motionless in space, their crews locked in an eternal loop of trying to process concepts that couldn't be quantified or replicated. Aftermath and respect. The Corvani fleet moved in to secure the disabled Devourer ships while their shuttles rescued the human pod crews. In the medical bay of the flagship, the surviving humans were treated with a respect that hadn't been there before. Admiral Thekron personally visited the medical bay, where Captain Chen was recovering from her ordeal. The Corvani leader's demeanor had changed completely. Captain Chen, he said formally, the Corvani Collective owes you a debt that cannot be repaid. You have accomplished what our most advanced fleets could not. Chen managed a tired smile. We didn't defeat them, Admiral. We just confused them into defeating themselves. Perhaps, Thekron replied, but that required a kind of thinking that we had never considered. The Devourers adapted to logical responses, but they could not adapt to chaos. Dr. Vasquez looked up from her medical scanner. It wasn't chaos, Admiral. It was creativity. The Devourers could copy and counter logical strategies, but they couldn't understand human imagination. They couldn't process the idea that opponents might value art over efficiency or choose dangerous options just because they were interesting. HFY joined the conversation. The humans did something we thought impossible. They turned their greatest weakness into their greatest strength. Their primitive technology, their illogical thinking, their refusal to follow established protocols, all of these became weapons. Admiral Thekron nodded slowly. The galaxy will need to be warned about the devourer threat, but also about the solution. Other species will need to learn from human methods. Or, Chen suggested, maybe we could work together. Combine Corvani technology with human unpredictability. Create a new kind of defense fleet. The Admiral's expression showed the first hint of what might have been humor. Captain, I believe that arrangement would be mutually beneficial, though I suspect working with humans will require significant adjustments to our operational procedures. Kane, who had been listening quietly, grinned. Admiral, you have no idea. Wait until you see what we can do when we're not desperate. New. Beginning 6 months later, the joint human Corvani fleet had grown to include a dozen species, each contributing their unique approach to the common defense. The devourer threat had been contained, their ships converted into research platforms for studying the intersection of logic and creativity. Captain Chen stood on the bridge of the new flagship, a hybrid vessel that combined Corvani technology with human tactical doctrine. The crew was mixed species, but the command structure followed human military traditions. Status report, she requested. All systems operational, Captain, replied Lieutenant Kane, now serving as first officer. The new ships are performing beyond expectations. Turns out creativity makes everything work better. Dr. Vasquez looked up from her science station. The research data from the disabled devourer ships is fascinating. We're learning things about artificial intelligence that could revolutionize technology across the galaxy. HFY, now serving as chief science officer, added his observations. The combination of Corvani precision and human innovation is producing results neither species could achieve alone. Perhaps this is how the galaxy was meant to evolve. Admiral Thekron's image appeared on the main screen. Captain Chen, we have received a distress signal from the Vega sector. Unknown hostile forces, attacking with conventional tactics. Chen smiled. Understood, Admiral. Setting course for Vega. Time to show another enemy what happens when you back humans into a corner. As the joint fleet jumped to faster-than-light travel, HFY reflected on the events that had brought them together. The humans had done more than save a single system. They had proven that strength came not from superior technology or overwhelming force, but from the willingness to try the impossible and the creativity to make it work. The galaxy would never be the same. And that, the Corvani scientist thought, was exactly what it needed. The age of predictable warfare was over. The age of human ingenuity had begun.